This was a real emotional, heart-wrenching story. Here we had O.J. Simpson, accused of a capital crime, and it was tragic.
It began last Monday with an image no one ever expected to see. O.J. Simpson in handcuffs. His ex-wife, Nicole Brown Simpson, and her friend, Ronald Goldman, the victims of a brutal double murder. It would end with an unbelievable drama played out on live TV. O.J. Simpson, murder suspect and fugitive, being pursued by police as the nation held its breath and Simpson's friends pleaded with the former football hero.
Give yourself up, man. Just stop. Please stop.
In the time between those two events, a media circus rivaling anything in print and broadcast history. Throughout it all, one question on everyone's mind, a question no one imagined would ever be asked about one of the nation's most beloved personalities.
Did he do it? Everyone is speculating.
Last Thursday, both victims were laid to rest separately. 25-year-old Ronald Goldman, a man everyone said was full of dreams, dreams that will never be realized. And 35-year-old Nicole Simpson, O.J.'s ex-wife. At her funeral, a grim-looking O.J. Simpson, the couple's young children, by his side. After the funerals, the media began to report that the arrest of O.J. Simpson for murder was imminent. It looked like this bizarre week-long drama was about to come to an end. But even here in Los Angeles, a town full of screenwriters and storytellers, no one could have predicted what was going to happen next. O.J. Simpson, the former star running back, was about to make his last desperate run.
He is a wanted murder suspect, and we will go find him.
On Friday, O.J. Simpson was to have surrendered to authorities. He didn't. Simpson was declared a fugitive. As authorities mounted their manhunt, the rumor mill churned. At Nicole Simpson's condo, the scene of the murders, a huge crowd gathered amid speculation that O.J. had killed himself there.
O.J. Simpson is not at this location. There's nothing going on here.
The near hysteria over Simpson's whereabouts continued to mount.
Don't feel sorry for me. I've had a great life, great friends. Please think of the real O.J. and not this lost person.
At a televised press conference, one of O.J.'s friends read a letter written by Simpson.
It appeared to us that it was a suicide note. And at that point, we decided to get in the helicopter and take a look at canyons and see if we can find O.J.
Veteran pilot and reporter Bob Turr has covered virtually every major L.A. news story from the air. His aircraft was one of a squadron of news choppers that would document O.J.'s run.
Highway Patrol.
Yeah, I think I just saw O.J. Simpson on the 5 freeway, and there was he's heading north, and I got the license plate of the white Bronco 3DHY503, and we looked at him, and he stared us down like he was dead.
That 911 call helped police zero in on the vehicle Simpson was riding in.
And within a matter of minutes, we were overhead. We found him. The police found him. And at first, there was one patrol unit, and within a minute, there were literally 20 patrol units behind him.
Simpson was in the back of the vehicle. Driving was his longtime pal, Al Cowlings, who also called 911.
This is AC. I have O.J. in the car.
Okay, where are you?
Please, I'm coming up the 5 freeway.
Okay.
Right now, we are okay, but you gotta tell the police to just back off. He's still alive, but he got a gun to his head. He just want to see his mother. Let me get him to the house.
During the low-speed pursuit, the motorcade would travel some 60 miles, going through 2 counties on 3 freeways.
It was an incredible sight. Thousands of people lined up along the side of the road, waving and trying to give O.J. Simpson support. And what we were watching on live television was almost like a funeral for a fallen friend.
This was one time when we were able to help, because there had been enough bloodshed, enough hurt, enough pain, and we didn't want to see any more.
Local sportscaster Jim Hill is a former pro football player and longtime friend of O.J. Simpson's. He was among the first to appeal to Simpson over the radio, hoping the men in the white Bronco were listening.
O.J., if you can hear me, Al, if you can hear me, whoever's in that truck, if you can hear us, please, gentlemen, please just pull over and stop.
It was just one of those things that comes from the heart, And when it comes from the heart, you hope you're able to reach out and to touch someone, to help someone. And we had some people speaking from the heart on that Friday.
Just stop. Please stop. In Jesus' name, just stop, man.
OJ, it's probably the fourth quarter, and this is the last play of the game, and there's no time on the clock.
In one of the most disturbing twists, some spectators acted like they were at a sporting event, a sharp contrast to the reality of a potentially suicidal suspect in a brutal double murder.
I don't know what they were doing or what they were even thinking.
After some 2 hours on the road, the caravan finally pulled up to the Simpson estate. With dozens of police officers waiting, the tension continued to mount.
The SWAT team members were in a position to make a move if it was necessary, and fortunately it wasn't.
Al Collings went back and forth from the car to the house on behalf of his friend, O.J. Simpson.
It was just an individual that was just lost. He was just absolutely lost, and he had his best friend in the world with him, who I think was trying to prevent him from taking his life.
Finally, O.J. Simpson got out of the vehicle and went into the house.
He had a couple of picture frames with him, and he walked inside the house, and that was the last we saw of him.
Inside, Simpson used the restroom, had a glass of orange juice, and did the one thing he needed to do most. He called his mother.
When you're at that end of the line, when you're at the end of the rope, you're trying to tie a knot in that end of the rope and hang on. You start calling for Mama.
And so ended the manhunt. O.J. Simpson was taken into custody. And here in the City of the Angels, one of the most celebrated angels had fallen.
What route the assailant may have used that night is still a mystery. And the weapon used in the murders of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ron Goldman is still missing. Was it, as the prosecution suggests, contained in a bag that was disposed of at the Los Angeles airport? Or did it disappear in Chicago? Well, Inside Edition spoke to a retired Los Angeles police officer whose beat was here in the Simpson neighborhood, and he offers a unique theory.
I think there's clearly a possibility of another route.
Jim King patrolled the West Los Angeles area for 22 years. He says he has personal knowledge of O.J.'s troubled past.
I dealt with O.J. the first time he was in a spousal battery situation with Marguerite. So very early on, some 20 years ago, I began to deal with O.J. in that regard.
Marguerite has since denied that O.J. ever hit her. While he has no direct access to evidence in the Simpson trial, one thing he takes issue with is the route investigators say O.J. may have taken from Nicole's apartment on Bundy Drive back to his Rockingham estate.
If O.J. did commit the crimes, he would want to get back to Rockingham as quietly and as surreptitiously as possible. Kenner is a very easy road to do that. Homewood is even better.
The LAPD refuses to comment on what specific routes they searched, but they did say they checked out all possibilities. King believes he knows of areas where the police didn't look and speculates that it would have been possible for Simpson to have disposed of any incriminating evidence before he reached his Rockingham estate just a few miles from Nicole's. Walking King's back route, we found a sweatshirt deep in the vegetation growing along one of the alternate routes to O.J.'s estate.
This is an area where you could drive along and toss it out of the car, out of the passenger side as you drive up Elkins Road in this same area here. I mean, just it's coincidental that this is here, but that's very typical of what we're talking about that we're looking for.
King pointed out vegetation along the route to O.J.'s that he believes hasn't been searched.
You can see how deep this ice plant is. It's considerably deep, and if you move over this area, you know, you have a major root system that you'd be hard-pressed to find anything because of the ability of it to penetrate and get down below the roots without a metal detector.
King says in addition to areas along this route, there are a number of trails and paths which could have been overlooked. He showed us a trail just down from O.J.'s home on Rockingham that is hidden between the manicured lawns and remote-controlled security fences that only a street cop who worked this area for 2 decades would know about.
Now, one of the trails just just a mere 2 blocks north on Rockingham from OJ's is here at this private residence. You drive in, you never would see it, and as you're looking forward, this driveway turns into a trail that accesses the area alongside this residence down to Mandeville Canyon.
How would OJ know about this area here?
Well, OJ walked in the neighborhood. He had his dogs, and from time to time, he would walk his dogs. And a dog would find that trail in a second.
King pointed out that there could have been a pre-dug hole where evidence could have been secreted. Remember, there was a shovel found in the back of OJ's Bronco, or the items could have been tossed into the dense brush.
I'm sure no one has looked back here. Once you know about this particular trail with the proximity that it is to OJ's house, it's a wonderful place for someone to plan to dump murder weapon and bloody clothes.
We, the jury, in the above entitled action, find the defendant Orenthal James Simpson not guilty of the crime of murder.
Across the nation and around the world, virtually everyone watched as Judgment Day came swiftly for O.J. Simpson.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, is this your verdict? So say you one, so say you all.
In New York, Nicole's former lover, Keith Zlomsewicz.
I can't believe it.
In Los Angeles, Ronald Goldman's close friends, Mike Davis and Jeff Keller.
It's the worst possible thing that could happen.
In San Francisco, O.J.'s brother, Truman Simpson.
Day of October 1995.
Thank you, Lord.
2:30. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, is this your verdict?
We'll hear more from friends and family members only on Inside Edition in just a moment. But first, a look at the reaction outside the courtroom.
Orenthal James Simpson not guilty of the crime of murder.
After sitting through so many days of heart-wrenching testimony, Ronald Goldman's family was devastated that their last day in court ended like this.
Last June 13th, 94, was the worst nightmare of my life. This is the second. I will forever be proud of my son and my family. Thank you.
At a Simpson family press conference in the courtroom, O.J.'s son Jason read a statement from his father.
People will come to understand and believe that I would not, could not, and did not kill anyone.
I knew that my son was innocent. And I had the support of so many people all over the world.
For so many months you've been asking me, how do I feel? And I tell you, I just feel like standing on top of this table and dancing a jig. And I just want to thank you guys.
I believe that based upon having participated in the arguments, that this jury felt the prosecution hadn't proven this case. And when ultimately you talk to them, that's going to be where they came down.
I said from the beginning that race was not an issue in this case and should not be an issue. I still feel the same way.
Afterward, a somber prosecution had this reaction.
And then I'd like to thank the members of our team. You're wonderful. You're wonderful. You've given everything. You've given your all throughout all of it. We couldn't have done any of it without you. You've done a beautiful job. Please don't let this make you lose faith in our system. Please don't let this deter you from doing a job you're so well qualified to do.
I'm not bitter, and I'm not angry, but I'd also like to thank the lawyers on our prosecution team. I am honored to have
But whether you agree with the jury's decision or not, there is no doubt that this verdict will go down in history. And there is also no doubt that no one is more affected by the jury's decision than the family members and close friends of the defendant and the victims.
There's a special place in hell for people like Johnny Cochran and O.J. Simpson, and they'll be roommates there.
Nicole's former lover, Keith Zlomsewicz, remains absolutely certain that O.J. Simpson committed the double murders and blames the Dream Team for allowing a guilty man to walk free.
Justice didn't prevail. Scheming and lying prevailed. That's what prevailed. There's nothing
remotely close to justice here. There's 2 dead people, and there's no one in jail for it. And the reason there's no one in jail for it is because he was just found not guilty. Not because that person's running around Los Angeles or anywhere else in the world and hasn't been identified. This was played out before the whole country and the whole world. And we all saw it, and we all saw the evidence, and we all know the truth. And the people that believe he's not guilty can try to mask that and hide that with excuses and reasons and things that don't make any sense. But deep down, everybody knows the truth. These people didn't just die. These people were murdered. And all those people on his side of the table, Johnny Cochran included, and every other defense lawyer over there, just shamed the legal profession by allowing a man to go free of murder.
What makes the verdict even more difficult for Zlomcewicz to take is that he had been convinced the jury would find O.J. guilty.
My heart is broken. She died in vain. She died for nothing. And he's going to be walking free on the streets of Los Angeles in less than an hour. It's not right. There's nothing right about that.
And if he could speak to Nicole now, this is what he would tell her.
I'm sorry. That's all I can say. I miss you. I think we did everything we could, and it wasn't enough. I don't think I'll ever be able to walk away from it. Situation's out of my hands. That gets to you inside, knowing there's nothing you can do.
I'm not going to look at the system anymore. Objectively.
Mike Davis and Jeff Keller can't believe that the man they believe is responsible for their friend Ron Goldman's death will walk away a free man.
It's a crime. God will give him what's coming to him, though, because that's the deal. The guy upstairs knows what happened.
That's the deal, and that's the bottom line. Vindication will always come in the end. Whether it's served in the court or out of the court, justice will be served.
As Ron and Nicole's friends expressed their anger, O.J. Simpson's brother Truman was overcome with emotion after the decision.
And now we have time for ourselves. You know, he can go back to not talking to his kids on the phone and see his kids. That's the greatest joy of all. Right there.
But this trial was about more than just O.J. Simpson's guilt or innocence. It was about domestic violence, police integrity, the power of celebrity, and it was about racism. Word of the verdict quickly reached into the streets and neighborhoods of Los Angeles.
Orenthal James Simpson not guilty of...
Residents in South Central Los Angeles flocked to their neighborhood clinic and community center run by Dr. James Mays.
An innocent man walked because the people spoke, and we have to accept the word of the people.
It's a good feeling. I bleed in my heart he didn't do it.
I know he didn't commit the crime. I know it was somebody else probably had did it.
And as O.J. Simpson left jail and headed for home, a single vivid question remained for all the parties in the case. It was Jason Simpson who asked it for his father.
But when things have settled a bit, I will pursue, as my primary goal in life, the killer or killers who slaughtered Nicole and Mr. Goldman. They are out there somewhere. Whatever it takes to identify them and bring them in, I'll provide somehow.